You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of singers and sound creators who are redefining what it means to make music with the voice. I'm Evan.
And I'm Kayla. And this episode features our good friend Jordy. During this episode, we talked about his experience with a cappella and trebs during college, his beginning experiences writing original music, moving from Boston to LA, and then finding his way in the greater music industry.
Jordy just dropped his new single, Be With Me, which is out on all streaming platforms right now. Add it to your summer playlist, and while you're at it, make sure you check out his music video, which is premiering now on the Armada Music YouTube channel. Now, speaking of the summer, at the end of the month, Head Voice is going to be taking a few months of a hiatus. We're going to be putting out episodes through the end of May, and then we're just going to take a little time to recharge our batteries, think of some new ideas, reformulate how we're going to do the show. But rest assured, we will be coming back, and we've got a great slate of episodes for the coming month. So I hope you look forward to those. But right now, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Jordy.
I'm just like killing the environment. That's just me being an idiot.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah, anyway.
Hello. We are here with Jordy. Hello,
Yee,
Jordy.
Hi. So excited.
We've known Jordy for how long have we known you?
Oh
For
my gosh.
5 years?
A long time. Yeah, 5 years, I think.
Yeah. We've obviously known you for so long, and you're one of our best friends.
I'm
close
gonna
friends,
cry thinking about our past. This is awesome.
This whole episode will just be tears.
Yeah.
Tears.
Actually, though.
Obviously, we know who you are, but if you wouldn't mind just saying a little bit about yourself, where you're from,
Yeah.
how you got to where you are, sort of.
Well, my name is Jordy, and I grew up in a suburb of Chicago. I have 2 siblings and a lovely set of parents. And
a really cute dog.
And a really cute pup. And yeah, I've been singing my entire life. I've been performing my entire life. Ever since I was crawling on the ground. There's really great home footage of me singing the theme song to Dudley the Dragon, which was one of my favorite childhood TV shows, and that's a family favorite. But yeah, music has always been a huge part of my life, a huge part of my expression and creative nature, I guess. Music has always been the thing that I've turned to in terms of art. And that's been a thing ever since I was super, super little. And I did it all through middle school and high school and did choir and theater and did music theory and did all that good stuff. And that was kind of I guess, with being guided by really great high school teachers who were super passionate about the arts as well. I think that was a huge way that I just started blossoming into music, was just focusing on music and kind of following the lead of really great teachers that I was lucky enough to work with.
Kayla and I were debating this before, and I probably could have asked you before we started rolling, but were you classically trained in
Yes.
voice,
Oh my
or
gosh.
did you...
I should have started with that, but
Okay.
yes,
I
I was classically trained for 4 years. So I started taking lessons with this incredible singer. He sings in the Lyric Opera of Chicago. His name's Ken Donovan. And my high school was really, really great about funding the arts and just caring about the arts. And so we actually, in high school, if you were in choir, you had a group of voice teachers that you could choose from, and they wouldn't charge you a lot of money, and our choir director would let us leave choir for a 30-minute lesson. That was totally okay. And there was a group of teachers to choose from, and I ended up working with Ken, and he trained me for 4 years. And it was all classical. So, I was singing Italian and French and all that kind of good stuff. But at the time, I was really interested in musical theater as well. And so he would kind of, that was the beginning of me learning how to take a technique, as in the classical technique, and kind of transcribe it to musical theater at the time, which was my way of, I didn't do a cappella. Well, actually, that's not true. I did all male a cappella in high school. But I think I started with a lot of musical theater and kind of using those techniques that Ken taught me, and kind of using them for a different genre of music was also a really good exercise, I think, for me. But yeah, I guess I was doing a cappella as well, and like show choir and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's where like the heavy vibrato comes from, is all the classical training, which I adore and I love about my voice. But it's funny being in LA and being in the studio and hearing producers just be like, can I get a good straight tone right now? I would just love if you could just do straight tone for this one thing. And I'm like, yes, of course, for sure. So yeah, no, definitely classically trained.
So just jumping back to high school again, at that point in your life, were you like, this is just a fun thing that I like to do, and I know that I like singing, and I know that maybe people like hearing me sing, so it's something that I'm good at and I know I have talent in? Or was it like, okay, I want to do this forever, and like this is the thing?
It was always a dream, like always. Yeah. And for a long time, I thought I like had this idea that I was going to music school. 100%. Like, even when BU first kind of became interesting to me, I was like, I'm gonna audition for vocal performance, or I'm gonna send an audition to USC Pop or Berkeley in Boston, and that was like a plan of mine. And I think that when like the time came and like senior year of high school rolled around, I don't know what really propelled me to like not go to music school, but I think that I'm just a person who loves to learn, and I knew that if I went to BU, I would 1,000,000% in some way be learning music, whether it was extracurricularly or even like in like classes that I could take as well. But I love to learn. I like have been really passionate about psychology. That was my first major at BU. I loved school, and I ended up pursuing a degree in English. I love to read. I love to write. I mean, part of the reason I switched to English was so that I would become a better writer, in hopes that it would kind of, be noticed in my songwriting, or if I was hoping to take courses that would kind of exercise that muscle. And so, yeah, I ended up just going with the liberal arts degree. And, I think there's a lot of people like me who do that, whether it's because, you're too afraid, or you don't think you're good enough at the time, or, when you're that young, it's hard to know exactly what you want to do, It's like,
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
It's hard to look at a 17-year-old and be like, I mean, at the time, yeah, I knew it was a dream of mine, but I guess I think I knew that I wanted some life experience and some like college experience. And now I feel like I have so many things to write about, because I just, college is a crazy effing time in our lives. And like, I mean, those were like my highest highs, lowest lows. And yeah, I learned a lot. So I have no regrets. No regrets.
Yeah. Well, speaking of BU, go Terriers.
Go
That's
Terriers.
Woof,
where
woof. We met you. But obviously we met you in Trebs doing a cappella stuff. We got in the same year. How did that, did you know that you wanted to do a cappella? And
yes. Well, okay, so now that I'm like, this is so fun for me to reflect on. I think when I was a senior in high school, I didn't know a lot about pop programs in the United States. And I knew that I wanted to be in a city, and BU just looked like such a great fit for me. I knew that BU had an a cappella community, and when I was applying to school, I mean, I remember seeing BU Treblemakers Cry Me a River on YouTube. Like that was like a turn on for me when it came to BU. I was like, a cappella, like I know that I'll be able to do that. And so, I came to BU and I auditioned for Trebs, and I just, I remember it being like one of the happiest moments of my life, because I just remember seeing the group being so lovable, and it seemed like they loved each other so much. And I, coming from, I guess, a really close community of, artists in high school, I was looking for like a really close like group of friends, and that's what Trebs seemed like to me. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I wanted like a typical college experience, because I wanted, like to meet people of all kinds of studies, like people who are studying like science and math and, art history and all that kind of stuff. And Trebs was that. And also people who like could sing really well and could make really good music. And so,
Can I tell you something I've never told you before?
Yeah.
When we first we got in the same year to the group, and you got in, and we heard your voice very quickly, and obviously you have this golden voice, and you just have this personality where everybody just like wants to like be you on some level. Aww. And they'll like feed off your inside jokes and everything. Yeah. And it was me, this little like scared sophomore, being like, I'll never have friends. Jordy's the coolest guy, and then he's like on this whole nother level. But I say that only to say that in the group that you were like a defining aspect of everything that we were, and how we viewed ourselves, and we competed, and you won things there. And I was just reading when doing prep this old BC article when we did this this show at BC, and you're dressed as SpongeBob. Yes. And you're like, he hold these long sustained notes, and the crowd went wild, and everybody wanted to
and like those were like guys, like BC, like those are some of my favorite memories of college, like because I guess like a cappella was another thing where like the people who you were performing for, like at shows, were like people who wanted to be at a cappella concerts. So it was just always, it was always just like super fun. I was also going to say KJ in particular. First of all, Evan, I freaking love you, and I always will. But KJ, it's so interesting because, when I went into college, I definitely was not a songwriter. Like, I did not write my own music. I would cover music. I would, perform other people's music, and that's what Trebs was as well. But I remember, I had a taste in music, and I remember when I was going into college, I started becoming obsessed with Ingrid Michaelson. She's one of those writers that's just like, the writing is so good. It's always stripped down, and it's always just a good song with good melodies and good lyrics. And I just remember I had seen a Trebs video of you doing the solo. Oh wait, no. We were doing, what song by Ingrid were we doing in Trebs that you were
Turn to Stone, baby.
Turn to Stone was a thing, and I knew that you were into that kind of style because you were singing Eat by
Regina
Spektor. And so I remember at like the first rehearsal, I was like trying to make friends, and I was like, hey, you listen to Ingrid, right? and you were like, yeah, I love Ingrid Michaelson.
I think we strictly talked about Ingrid for maybe like 2 months. Like that's the only thing we talked about.
Literally. But I think it was like another way of me kind of being like, wow, the people in Trebs like understand what good music is, and like appreciate what good music is. And that was another thing that like really turned me onto the group, was that everybody seemed like they were super authentic and really listened to music and loved music. And I love music too. And yeah, it ended up being the perfect fit.
It definitely was. I'm now that we're like on the subject of Trebs, I'm just curious like how you feel it has almost defined your voice, if it has at all, and like how you personally grew through that experience.
100%. Guys, I'm gonna cry. Everybody who's listening, if anyone who knows me like knows that I'm like such a crier, but so like when I left high school, I like my voice freshman year of college was like very much where my voice was left off after 4 years of classical training. So like there was, not a bad thing, but I think I knew that like that wasn't the kind of, like I knew I didn't want to be an opera singer. I knew that I didn't want to go into that kind of music. And so I knew that Trebs would be like the thing to exercise like my pop voice and like the riffs that I always love to do, and like my belt and like that kind of thing. And that was like it was my only outlet for that, besides like singing in the shower. I mean, like at that point in time, I wasn't posting covers on YouTube yet either. So it was singing in the shower and like singing with my friends, and then Trebs, that was it. I was also, my freshman year, I should mention, if anybody who was in Fire and Rain is listening to this, that was also like a huge impact on my love for good music and good writing, because like alongside Trebs my freshman year, I was lucky enough to be a part of this production called Fire and Rain, which was an original show written by this amazing guy named Harry Meltzer and this beautiful, lovely lady named Julia Reedon. And they didn't write the music, but they wrote a show with like just James Taylor music, and we kind of, everybody had their own solo and interpreted it in their own way, and the cast became incredibly close, and like my best friends, I ended up living with most of them, and they're still my best friends today. And So that alongside with Trebs was like how I exercised that like new part of my voice that I was like still trying to discover, because I was doing a lot of musical theater, a lot of classical singing in high school, and so yeah, singing pop music in Trebs and then singing some James Taylor was like how I started really exercising that my freshman year.
Totally. Well, you mentioned the YouTube covers.
Yes.
And so kind of what was on some level, I remember we did a lot of them together, like, and it was kind of just sometimes to just do them.
Sure. But this was also like such a Treb thing, because before I posted my own videos, I was like, back porch jams. Shout out to Colin Reck. Because he was like one of the first people that I saw putting out like music for fun and putting out his voice and his arrangements for fun. And I was like, that's freaking cool. Because he was also, I had recognized him from the Crimea River video. And I remember freshman year, we did one together. Molly was in it. It was like some crazy mashup of like 20 songs, like in like a minute video, and it was on his porch, but it was like super fun, and we were just like riffing and belting and harmonizing, and it was dope. And Callan was the guy to look at me at a Treb party after probably, each of us having like a lot of guys, what was the bucket, gin bucket, sorry, there we go. He was like, you have to start putting out videos, like you just have to do it, like you're too good, like why aren't you? And I was like, I don't know, like blah 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 blah. And he was like, just do it. And that was when I did it. That's wild. Decided to start putting out my own music. So
yeah, I feel like it was clear closer to the end of your time at BU that that music was the thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you worked at Do 617 doing some like music stuff, but it all kind of felt on the periphery of things. But Ribbons was like the EP that you wrote with your friend Jake is like a more tangible step towards, it seemed like, where you wanted to go. Definitely. How did you kind of arrive at making that?
I think it came about my sophomore year, but it ended up getting released, I think, September of my junior year. And yeah, that was like the first time that, so it was my best friend from college. Her name's Tori. One of her best friends from high school, his name's Jake Olbaum, who is right now, actually, just side note, he's playing Bonnaroo this summer with his band, The Foxies. Whoa. Shout out, really freaking cool. He's killing it. But cool. He, I had known him through Tori, and he was incredibly talented. He was a writer, he was a producer. So I was just like, I need to like just learn from this guy. And he actually approached me. We all got like lunch, and he was like, I don't know if he had like mentioned to Tori, like, I want to work with Jordy. I mean, I was probably consistently being like to Tori, I really want to work with Jake. But we ended up getting lunch, and he was like, I want to like help you do this, like a project, like let's do something together. And I was like starstruck. I was like, first of all, it was validating for someone just to be like, I want to take your instrument and like help you, like I want to help you find your artistry. Like I want to put your voice on an original song that you can put out that, people won't just be like, wow, Jordy's voice, but people will be like, that song that Jordy like wrote and like performed or whatever. So it was just like a really exciting time for me. And I was like, absolutely, let's freaking do it. So it took like a year to like, there were 2 songs that were already written. One of them was only written by Jake, and then the other one was written by Jake Olbaum and a girl named Rachel Wine, who's also killing it right now, and she works for Prescription Songs in Nashville. And those 2 songs were just 2 songs that really spoke to me at that part of my life, and 2 songs that vocally I knew that I'd be able to take on and kind of put my own spin on it. And then the 3 other songs I co-wrote with Jake, and also Emma, our good friend Emma, co-wrote Stay Longer, which ended up being, I think, like the fan favorite of the EP. Yeah. But it was very much like at that point in time, I didn't really have any experience with any like pop or electronic pop producers. Like I was kind of just trying to focus on making good songs that were just like stripped and like it was guitar and vocals or piano and vocals. And I think for a first project, I was like, I'll always look back on that project and, be so proud, because that was just like the beginning of me putting my name out there as like me wanting to be an artist. And I'm really happy that I had like people who were like along with me on that path, who were like so encouraging and supportive, and people who wanted to work with me. And so that ended up going, like, that kind of played out through my last 2 years at BU. And I did some gigs like throughout Boston. A lot of the time they were with Emma. And that was just another great way for me to exercise performing original music and kind of putting my name out there as a performer in like a city. And after I graduated, music was like the plan, like 100%. I was like, I'm going to do this. All of you knew that. I was like very much verbal about, this is what I want to do. This is my dream. And I signed a lease to live in Boston for the year. I was in a really serious relationship with someone I loved very dearly. And I also was in a place where I was like, I can make music happen from anywhere. I can, meet producers here and songwriters here, and the internet's a thing and whatever. I was very much in this zone where Boston was the place for me at this point of my life. And I think it was just like a couple months into the summer after graduation. I don't know. I was very unfulfilled. There was just like a part of me that like knew that I wasn't taking advantage of certain connections and resources I had in California. I knew that I was sacrificing myself for something, whether that was like my relationship or the friends I had in Boston or fear. I was just like, I was feeling very unfulfilled. And I texted my mom being like, I think I need to move to LA. And she was like, talk me through it. And I was just like, I had people reaching out to me from LA being like, can we work together? Can we write together? And I was like feeling like, restricted because I was so far away. And Boston is a great place for music. But for the kind of pop music that I was looking for, I wasn't able to find the producers and writers that I needed for the career that I knew was right for me. And I was really stuck. I was just telling my mom, I was like, I know that I'm meant to be there, and I know that I'm giving up a lot by not being there. And I know that even that if I left, I'd be giving up a lot too. But I think that this is the only time in my life where I can do this. Like, this is the moment. Like, I can't wait any longer. And so I was like, the plan was for me to move to LA in January. So I'd be in Boston for half of the year around. And that slowly, it honestly just slowly turned into very much like a mental thing, because everybody knows about the post-graduation blues. I'm sure you guys can relate. They are they suck. And I just felt like I felt like I was putting so many things to waste. I felt like I was putting my voice to waste and my writing to waste. And I just felt like I knew that I needed to leave. And so it slowly turned into this like really hard thing for me. And so then it turned into me moving to LA, I'd leave in November, and then it slowly turned into me leaving in October. And like, it was a really stressful and sad time, because I think it was, subconsciously taking a toll on my relationship. It was just impacting like my mental health. I knew that I was just sacrificing a lot if I didn't move. And so I found a subletter to move into my apartment, not to sign my lease, LOL, but just to move into my room and pay the rent so that I didn't have to. And I booked a flight on October 15th. And
you might say that you gotta leave is what was happening. And I mean, and sorry for even doing that, but like that song kind of came about right
literally
as you were about to leave. I remember you showed me some stuff.
Literally, so me and my boyfriend, who I was dating at the time, it turned into like this like, we're just gonna break up when you move kind of thing. And that was really freaking hard for me, because like, I'm not good with like a timestamp on a relationship. Like, that was giving me like the most anxiety ever. And my brother was also getting married in November, like at the time that like I would have been moving away, and like I didn't really want to like be going through a breakup with my boyfriend of almost 2 years the night before my brother's wedding. There was just like a lot of like things that were going on. And so we ended up breaking up like a month before I left. And then right before I moved to LA, or before I moved away from Boston in October, he had found out through friends that I was moving, and we saw each other that night, and we're kind of just able to connect and kind of say our final goodbye, like, before I left. And it was like the next morning when I was heading to the airport that I literally, like, pulled, like, my phone out of my pocket, and, like, I, like, had this melody of, like like it's in my it's so funny to like listen to old voice memos of just like really quick, like an idea, and like and then like there's another funny voice memo of me just being like, I gotta leave, and it was like all in this Uber like to the airport, and like it was just an idea that came to my head. And yeah, that's how that song came about, and that was like the first song that I was able to get like a pop EDM producer on. And it just so happened to like happen when I was moving to LA, and when I was leaving Boston, and when I was leaving this relationship, and everything kind of weirdly fell into place with that song. And I was kind of able to like come to LA like with this song like under my belt. And yeah, that was like that was the first song that like I wrote like completely on my own. Like that song I wrote on my own. There were no co-writers on that. That was a huge accomplishment for me. And I think it was also because it was the most personal for me. You know, when I was writing with Jake Olbaum for Ribbons, there were definitely life experiences that I had, you know, experienced to write about. But I think that, you know, this relationship really gave me just a lot of inspiration and creative motivation. And I think it ended up being just a really honest and personal song, which is why it ended up doing so well.
Yeah, and now it has over 100,000 plays on Spotify or something crazy, and multiple remixes. Super cool. Yeah. I think that song kind of, you know, signaled a shift in your writing and where you're at in your you know, your life with writing and your experience with that. And we've talked about how, you know, now you live in LA with an amazing songwriter, Will J, and, you know, there's the And the Writer Is podcast that we've talked about with Ross Golan, which is amazing. What's kind of been your journey in learning about songwriting for pop music in the way that you're kind of in it now?
It makes me so excited. I like literally like just got the chills when you were like saying that. I don't know. I'm so... First of all, I'm just like the happiest I've ever been in my life. Like it's you know, LA is certainly a hard place to be. It can be a lonely place. But being somewhere, knowing that you're doing exactly what you want to be doing and working on like that dream that you've always had, it's given me this crazy confidence and motivation. And, you know, I attribute to a lot of like my experience to like the people I'm surrounding myself with. So yeah, my roommate Will is an incredible writer, and I met him through one of my greatest friends who I've met through like the a cappella community. And as I was moving here, she was, you know, telling me that like Will needed like a roommate. He was moving out of his house. I was moving there, and we like found a place, and it worked out really well. And I'm just really lucky to be able to kind of come here and like learn from him like from the get-go. And Be With Me, which is like this new release that I came out with 2 days ago, which I'm sure we'll get into more of, but was like my first session with my roommate Will and this producer that we both know. His name's Johnny Shore. It happened within like a week of like being in LA, like, or 2 weeks. It was like very fresh. And so I think what I've learned the most about being here is kind of just like, I think one, like the best music is honest music. And like every session that I've gone into has just started with a really long conversation, like a really long conversation about how we're feeling, life, and picking things from those conversations, and like, you know, being really vulnerable and opening up to each other. And that's what I think makes the best music. And Be With Me was one of my first sessions in LA, and again, it was with Will and Johnny. And that day we went into Johnny's home studio, and they were kind of like, okay, like, what we doing today? What we writing about? And I was like, I'm really sad. Like, my heart is broken. I miss my ex-boyfriend, like, very much, and I'm really lonely, and everything's really hard, and transition is hard, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And this is so funny, because a lot of the time, I would say, like, if you're feeling something, like, channel that emotion in a session, like, just, like, put it all out on the table. But for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was just, like, the energy, but Johnny just looked at us and was like, let's write a happy song then. Like, let's get you out of this funk and let's write a happy freaking song. Because I was also talking about how I was doing really well at the same time. Like, one of the lyrics that didn't make it into the song, but like was a melody that was like in the initial round of like coming up with like lyrics and melody and stuff, was like was a lyric that like I was kind of trying to mess with. It was like, I never thought I'd be an early riser. And that was like a huge part of like me coming to LA, like waking up with the sun. Like I've like it's a happy thing. It provides me with a lot of comfort and happiness, and kind of just I'm seeing myself in this very positive, independent light, and I have no other person to be responsible for other than myself. And, you know, I'm waking up early, I'm working hard, I'm like grinding my ass off. And, you know, I never thought I'd be like, I always used to like sleep in and like whatever, but like I wake up very early and I like just start the day working very hard, go to work, like do whatever it takes. And so Johnny was like, there's something happy in that. Like, let's like kind of work on that. Let's like expand that. And the song turned into, you know, this mantra of like, damn, it feels good to be with me again, because I had forgotten what it was like to be with myself, and I had forgotten what it was like to love myself. I, in my relationship, looked for too much validation in my partner and not enough validation within myself. And, you know, I think I like to think of it like, a lot of people say they're looking for their other half. And I think I was very much a half a person who was looking for another half. But I think it's really important to be like a whole person and to find someone else who's like also like a whole person. I think that like you should be able to love yourself just as strongly as anyone else. And like your number one fan and your biggest support should be you. And so that's what came out of that session. And it was like, you know, it was a very open and honest session. As I was saying before, I was talking about this relationship. I was talking about, you know, being alone and like dealing with that and like what comes with it. And that's like kind of where it started. And that was kind of my first session where I left and I was like, oh my God, we just made a banger. Like we literally just wrote a banging song. I want to do more. Like I want to keep going. Like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, that was really exciting.
I guess I'm curious to see too, because like from like Ribbons until now, until Be With Me, have you seen like your technical perspective change at all in terms of songwriting, and like what sort of things have you learned that have been helpful for making the process smoother, or like getting the best lines out for yourself?
Sure. No, for sure. Okay, so this is an interesting question, and this is where I think my English major kind of harmed me in a way. But I think for a while, you know, I had a lot of friends in college people in Trebs too, who are very artistic writers, very smart with their metaphorical use, very funny and just smart in that way. And I always kind of struggled with that because I'm a very like confrontational person, and I don't really like to like mask my feelings. I'd rather just be like straight up. And coming to LA and also like listening to a lot of like up and coming artists, specifically like Julia Michaels and Lauv, and like a lot of new artists who I think are just putting out really honest and like conversational songs. So like when I say conversational, like Be With Me, like is very easy to understand. Like the lyrics are very straightforward. It's almost as if I'm having a conversation with someone, which I just really like, because I feel like when I listen to Julia Michaels and she's, you know, like singing Issues or Make It Up to You, which are 2 songs on her EP that she released, I feel like she's talking to me personally, and she's not kind of sugarcoating anything, but she's just being blunt and honest and gorgeous. And like that was like kind of my goal with Be With Me, was to be really conversational and honest, and also like artistic, and like I wanted to have those like little details that people would be like, oh, like crap, like that, like little, like tiny, like melody in there, or that, like that lyric right there. I definitely wanted to have that kind of artistic, view towards it, but I also wanted it I wanted it to be really relatable, and I wanted it to be easy for people to kind of get the second they hear it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Which
a lot of
you definitely achieved.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, and I think that like, a lot of people go through. I mean, the other day somebody commented on the song, like, finally a happy breakup song, which I thought was also really important to get across because, I left my relationship, like, with no animosity towards the person that I left. Like, we care about each other very deeply. Like, I will always care about him. And, like, I wanted that to come across in my song. Like, no part of me wanted... Like, I knew I wanted to write about my experience and my breakup, but, like, I knew that I never wanted to, like, paint... my partner in that way, the person that I was with. And so I felt like the best way to kind of do that was like make the song not even about him, but more so just like about me and like, loving myself. Cause I think, a lot of people get out of relationships and, loving themselves and like keeping themselves company is like such a foreign concept to them after coming out of such a serious relationship. And so I just want people to hear this song and just feel like I'm in the room talking to them on the couch, like giving them a pep talk, because like that's what I do in my life anyway. Like I love being that friend to be there for another friend who's going through something. And I love just being like, talk to me and like, let me help you. Like, let me, motivate you, like snap out of it. And so I want this song just to give people that kind of feeling that I'm in the room, just kind of reminding them that being alone is cool.
Yeah, and I think you like totally achieved it. For me, of everything that you've ever done, it feels like the most honest expression of yourself, which was like obviously your goal.
Thanks.
And like, I think, as somebody you try to do music, it's so easy to like get caught up in trying to be clever or whatever it is. But like, I think for you specifically, that's really poignant that you are trying to make it, be confrontational and be conversational. And I think it definitely comes out. Yeah. And I think that's why people are going to respond to the song. Thanks. And why it's so good.
Thanks. Yeah.
And obviously some labels thought that as well, because the single got signed with Armada. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
How did that come about?
So after the song was done, well, the first time Johnny sent me a mix with like a full drop and just like production on it, I was with my family at the time, and I just like I broke down in tears. I was like, I truly cannot believe that this is my song. Like this is this is everything I've dreamed about. Like this is my dream, like right now. This is right here my validation for moving to LA. This validates every decision I made, every difficult decision I made. And so I knew that I just like really believed in it. And so when it was done, I just like started submitting it via this website called Submit Hub. And I got a ton of responses, and things weren't feeling or looking so good on my end for a little bit of time. But then I woke up one morning and there were like 5 emails, like offers that were on my computer. And I was like, holy crap, this is insane. Yeah. And incredibly validating that so many people are like trying to jump on this song. This producer ended up tweeting at me, who is a producer that's signed by Armada and owns an imprint sublabel of Armada. He was the one who heard my submission, and he like loved it and immediately was like, I want to work with you. I want to work with your voice, and I want people to hear this song. And it was really that quick. It happened in like, it all happened in a day. Like a couple of days later, I got a contract that like I looked over with, a good family friend who's in the business and like knows what he's doing. And so I made sure that I was in good hands, and I knew that I wasn't signing anything that would make me stuck or anything bad like that, because I've heard, horror stories. But I was eager to get it signed because, I'm still a newbie at this. I'm very much up and coming, and I thought that it would give me a platform. And And so it was really exciting. Armada, is home to Armin van Buuren and just a bunch of legendary dance artists, and have put out a lot of huge dance tunes over the past decade. And so it was very validating for me and very exciting. And it happened very quickly. And so I guess as for a timeline, Be With Me was written, it was finished by January, and I started submitting it kind of mid-January, and I signed the contract at the beginning of February, and the song came out on April 27th. And yeah.
So with the song, you have a fun video. So I feel like this is like the video that you did with it is kind of your first full-fledged professional thing, video wise. So how did that like come together in terms of like finding the people to work on the project and like actually shooting the project and staying in the mindset of the song and not getting distracted and that sort of thing?
Again, like I just like really guys, I love this song. And like, I mean, every artist should love their work, like I really love this song. And so essentially I knew that I wanted to do like everything possible to like get this song going, and so I had never done a music video before. I had never I had done cover videos, and I had done like mini music videos with you, Evan, where like you had produced my voice, and that was the real beginning of like working on like video in my music, was working with you. And I was one of the I'm gonna be so honest and real right now, but you were, both of you, but Evan, you were such a huge reason why I was so sad to leave Boston, was because you were one of the first people to kind of look at me as an artist and just believe in me, and someone who like would want to work with me and perform with me. And I always felt so validated by that, because I like see you as such a musical genius. And so coming here, it gave me like a confidence to reach out to directors or people who would potentially be interested in doing a music video for the song. But what ended up happening was one of my best friends since first grade, who ended up going to USC for film. So I always knew that like he would be someone like in film that I that I would dream of working with. But he's grinding as well right now. He's like working as hard as he can to get himself to the top, and so I wasn't sure if he would do it, but I sent him the song, and like we hang out all the time, but I showed him Be With Me, and he was like, I have to direct this music video. Like if you give it to anybody else, like I will be so angry. Like this, we have to do this together. And I was like, oh my God. I was shocked. I was like, yes, 100%. We have to do this together. And so he was like, all right, like I'm going to like text a bunch of my friends. And he texted this guy named Matt Burke, who was the guy behind the camera the entire time. And then he reached out to this guy named Reef Oldberg, who was the producer for the video. And we all kind of just met and like talked about like what I wanted for the video. They listened to the song. And it was a pretty quick process. And we wanted the video to be simple. I didn't want it to be like anything crazy. I wanted it to represent me. I wanted it to represent like my silly self. I wanted it to be dancing. I wanted it to be me by myself. I didn't want anyone else in the video, because the point of the song is kind of just celebrating you and being with yourself. And so we rented a studio space, we rented equipment. It took a chunk out of my wallet, but I want to invest in this career, and every penny was worth it for me. And it was the most fun I've ever had. I mean, they were blasting Be With Me in the studio space, and I just got to dance. Evan, you were able to see a small snapshot of that experience. And it just felt really cool. I mean, the cameras were incredibly legit, and I just felt really excited. And I knew that that the final product would be incredible. And his name is Ryan Wagner. For anybody out there who has seen the video, Ryan Wagner directed it. He is incredibly talented, and it's live on the Armada Music YouTube channel. And that was also a really exciting thing for me too, when they said that they would share the video on their YouTube channel, which has over 3 million subscribers. So that was a huge thing for me as well, just knowing that the video would get some sort of exposure. But yeah, it was an incredible experience to be working with friends. I think that was just really, really special for me.
Yeah. And so we could easily keep talking to you for a while,
so long,
obviously. Yeah. So there's an interesting trend, I think, and I think it's picking up as of late of, the collegiate a cappella space kind of fostering people, like the best of the best of soloists and everything are just kind of, transitioning into careers, a lot of them in LA and New York and stuff, from India, Carney to Sam Creighton to Malia from the Vocals to you. It's like, it's a thing that I think is just going to keep on picking up. For anybody who's listening, who has this dream of that, that they want to be an artist and they want to write songs and they want to move to wherever and pursue it. Obviously, so much has happened for you already, but there's so much still to come, I feel like, for your career.
Totally.
Just the beginning of your new career, I feel like. What would you say to those people?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing is that there is a place for everyone. There just is. And if it's really, truly what you're meant to be doing, and you feel that it is your destiny, it is this or nothing, I believe that there's a place for everyone. I think that you have to work really freaking hard. But I think, look, this is something really interesting, and this is not speaking down to anybody who went to music school or anything, but there was a producer when I moved to LA who I heard from a friend kind of say something along the lines of like, all these a cappella kids just want to be pop stars now. And I was kind of like, that's funny, because like, for anybody out there who like isn't at USC Pop or at Berkeley, like, there are people in those programs who I love dearly, and I know those programs are very demanding and probably, as if not more stressful. But I guess my point is that if you're not in music school, it does not mean that you cannot pursue music. Like, if this is your dream, enjoy these 4 years to learn about psychology or English or, like hospitality management. Like, enjoy that time, like, because you're never really, if you want to be an artist, when are you going to have another time in your life to spend 4 years learning about the world and about history? Like, right? Like, I think that's like a cool thing. Like, I'm excited to like brag about my degree later in my career and kind of be like, yeah, I'm like a pop artist who also has an English degree from BU. Like, I think that's like not something to be disappointed by. That's something to be really proud of. And so for anybody listening out there who like is doing a cappella at a school where you're not majoring in music, like, please get the thought of you cannot do music out of your head, because that is just simply not true. A cappella gave me so many resources, just like Sam, and I love hanging out with Malia. She's an incredible artist too, and all these people who learned so much by doing a cappella. I mean, I still use things I learned from a cappella in my day-to-day, like writing and singing process. Like, if I'm in the studio, for Be With Me in particular, like background vocals like weren't pre-arranged for me. Like, I needed to come up with like harmonies and background like ad-libs that would like work and blend well together. And like having the experience from Trebs and like arranging like a small amount but still a little bit, I use those skills all the time. And so, whether you are a jazz studies major, a pop music major, or a pre-med major, you can do music if you work really hard. If you're nice to people, if you're supportive of other people, I think that's like really important. And, if the passion is there, like, just do it. I highly recommend everybody watch the documentary, The Secret, streaming on Netflix, because it changed my life in the way that it just provided me with this mindset of, if you continue to put positive energy out into the universe, and if you continue to work hard and treat others with respect and, thank and continue to be grateful for what you already have, then good things will come to you. And just don't forget that. Work really, really, really hard, and write as hard as you can, because songwriting is a muscle. And, my roommate says that all the time, and, you have to exercise it. And so exercise your brain, exercise that creative space in your brain, and trust yourself, and don't be afraid.
Love it. So obviously you just dropped this Be With Me video, but what is next on the plate for you?
So what is next? We're going to see how this song does in the next couple of weeks. And, I'm really excited to see how people like feel about it, and, how people are liking it and stuff. It seems like people are liking it so far. I've been getting some awesome feedback, but, the plan for the future is just to continue to release music. So I have like a bunch of songs that are being worked on right now. Some of them are done that could be released. I have a couple of features that are really exciting coming up with some really big DJs, which I'm really excited about, that I'm not sure I can really talk about in detail right now, but there are just content, more content for sure. I think that once I start getting more consistent content out there, I'd love to do, you know, some live performances, some shows. That would be incredible. But right now, just putting my name out there, getting original content out there, and just, you know, putting my name out there as an artist, getting people to recognize the kind of music that I'm putting out, the kind of lyrics and vibes I'm putting out. And, you know, I want to continue to work really hard, continue to write a lot. And, yeah, there's definitely going to be another single probably in the next couple of months. So that's something to look forward to too.
Well, Jordy, while we were talking, like somewhere in the last few things, just you talking about, you know, how you live your life, I just kind of like forgot that you weren't just like another guest on our podcast, because you're like literally like, and like obviously we love you, but like I like forgot I was talking to my friend. You're like a person that's doing it. You're like living the dream, and I think like people should be super inspired by what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks. It's hard. I will say, like, you know, for any artist out there too, like, you are always your worst critic, right? So like hearing you say that is very sweet and makes me feel very validated and good. But, you know, whoever's listening to this, you know, who is someone like me who's like still, you know, up and coming and trying to put stuff out there, like it's hard. Like, and I'm here with you and I'm experiencing that with you. But I really, really believe that like you know, it's the people that give up and like let that fear and difficulty kind of like override that passion. And I just like am not in a place where I am even close to ready. I don't think I'll ever be ready to give up on it. So I think that, you know, I'm just gonna keep working, and I appreciate that, Ev. That's really, really nice.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think if anything that I've learned about music through this is that your community is super important, and you've obviously are finding yours in LA, and we're obviously your community forever. So thank you for joining us.
I love you. I love you.
Too.
I love you. I love you.
And to you listening, we hope you join us next week for a new episode of Head Voice.